Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Leading Change. My name is Ema Roloff, and I've got Sahra with me today, and we're going to be diving into a little bit of the evolution of the payments space today. But before I dive into all the questions that I've got for you, Sahra, can you give everybody an introduction?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Emma. So excited to be here and continue our conversation. I think we started at ITC, but my name is Sahra Owen. I actually come from the fintech space, everything about payments. I've been there for about 25 years, primarily either in general management, innovation, or product development. I have recently moved about a year ago to the insurtech space where my company specializes on payments for the insurance space, in particular, property and casualty carriers.
Thank you for being here with me. I really appreciate it. And I want us to just start by setting the stage a little bit with this idea of over the course of that career, whether it was in the fintech space or now in the insurtech space, can you share a little bit about what the evolution of the payments market has looked like and what you've seen in your career?
Yes, I would love to. And especially, I think the last 25 years that I've been in it has completely changed the game of previous decades and centuries. So really, when you think about payments, the catalyst for change and evolution is technology. And we've seen that technology creates these different communication channels for consumers, and that ultimately or inevitably ends up leading to merchants being able to, or wanting to sell something within that channel. So consumers wanting to buy, merchants wanting to sell. And really what changed the game was the late 90s when Amazon started selling books online. Of course, there were many other internet companies trying to sell things. I remember socks.com and things, but Amazon really was the one that kind of started to take us forward. So then you move from Amazon to other retailers wanting to get into that space, and you have consumers really getting comfortable to interact in that way, make purchases online. So that really set the groundwork for then things like financial management tools to be made available. So in the mid 2000s, late 2000s, you started seeing consumers using their mobile apps for online banking. So all of a sudden now they had the ability to check their balance, see what transactions had come through, and really be enabled to manage their money. That kind of got them used to then wanting to do all of those types of transactions online. So things like bill pay. And then we have COVID that hit us, and any of the commercial providers who weren't online and weren't enabling consumers to pay online were scrambling to be able to put something in place. If you think about it, even 5 years ago, simple 5 years ago, a lot of people were still writing checks for rent, for mortgages, and for their insurance premiums. But now that has drastically changed. And over the course of COVID, we ended up 2021 transacting over $6.6 trillion in digital payments, which was up 40% from 2 years ago, previous to COVID. So that was all of the tools, technology, and kind of consumer behaviors had already started to change, but now we're just in a different market. So it's exciting times. And as new technologies emerge and allow new channels, I think the expectation is consumers are going to want to interact that way. So I can't wait to see what happens on the metaverse.
You mentioned in your introduction that your focus now is really in that P&C space. And when we were prepping for this conversation, you made a comment about a lot of times the hope is that as an insured, you're only interacting with your insurance company when you're paying your premiums. So can you talk a little bit about how this evolution of the payment space is now impacting the customer experience, and specifically with things like premium payments in the P&C space?
Absolutely. So as you said, in the best case scenario, you as an insured are not interacting with your carrier. Unfortunately, accidents do happen, and that is why our insurance carriers are there to protect us and help us through that. But on the normal day-to-day, you're not calling or interacting with your insurance company except when you are making a payment. So that's really an opportunity to create a very seamless experience for that consumer in multiple ways. One, allowing the consumer to pay wherever they want to pay, whether that's online, through their mobile device, IVR, or even through text to pay or emails. So really giving them the chance to decide how they want to pay. Secondly, allowing them to pay with whatever method they want to pay. So traditionally, that could have been a DDA or checking account, a debit card, credit card. But now that consumers are moving to things like Google Wallet, Apple Wallet, Venmo, and PayPal, you have to be able to ensure that those choices are available to the consumer. And that's all about payments. But then there's the interaction and the engagement that this allows as well. Some folks might have a busy day, busy week, and it's very convenient when the insurance company can remind them that the bill is coming, or say thank you, the payment has been made. So convenient communications like that. But in addition to that, going beyond payments and having communications, like right now, winter's coming upon us. So how nice would it be to add communications like, don't forget to change out your windshield wiper fluid if you're in the north and that's going to freeze, or change your tires or things like that. So it's really a channel and an opportunity for carriers to provide advice and kind of be in front of showing that they are really thinking about and looking after their insureds. That's the premium side. Then there's a whole lot of innovation happening on the claims pay side as well.
You set me up perfect. That's exactly what I want to talk about. So I want to talk about predictions from your standpoint of what's to come in the payment space. Maybe how is it starting to touch claims? How does it play into this like much larger conversation that we're always having about integrations? So as I say, it's time to take out your crystal ball, Sarah, and of where we're headed.
I'll give you my ball that I actually see into and is happening right now, and then I'll share with you what I think is happening in the future. So again, with payments, that there is still paper involved, whether that's in particular, I'm referring to check. There's an opportunity to create efficiencies by turning that paper process, which can take weeks, into a real-time or instant engagement. So right now with property and casualty carriers, the kind of first foray was in premium payments. But now we're working a lot of carriers to help accelerate that claims payment process. So think about before, when you were working with your adjuster, and your adjuster and the insured came to an agreement and they said, okay, this is the amount of the settlement. And then all of a sudden, that goes into the process and you wait weeks to receive that check, up to 6 to 8 weeks. Right now, we are integrating with those carriers to be able to provide real-time distribution of those claims, whether that, and again, the consumer has the option to choose DDA. They can still receive a check if they would like, but we're even moving into things like real-time payments. So that's really where the crystal ball era is going. Previous historical payment systems like DDA, meaning moving money into your checking account or from your checking account, were built on batch file systems, so not necessarily real time. Now we have some consortiums, FedNow and the clearinghouse, who have flipped that on its head, created real-time APIs so that when you ask to receive those funds or when someone is pushing funds to you, you can receive it literally in seconds. Right now it's 6 seconds from your adjuster saying, would you like to receive these funds? Let's sign the appropriate paperwork and then click the button and say, here, the funds are in your bank account or in your mobile wallet. And again, that is just starting. That's what is going to be happening over the next year to 18 months. And I can't imagine just a better experience than having something happen to your home or to your car and you're terribly inconvenienced and maybe even worse than that, and really needing to see those funds. And now you can get them real time. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is, as we're seeing B2B payments accelerate, there's also the opportunity to move beyond the consumer distribution, but also move into vendor distribution. So for example, if I got into a car accident, I'm using the carrier's preferred vendor for my auto body shop repairs. Now the carrier can also distribute those funds, that amount for that repair, to the vendor. So there's a lot happening in this digitization, not just between the carrier and the consumer, but the carrier and the vendor. And then I'll circle it up with integrations. Integrations, I think we're all talking about integrations in the insurance space right now, because there are going to be point solutions, but those point solutions need to be integrated with the rest of the flow. So from a payment perspective, there's the consumer side and then the carrier side. The consumer wants to know that they're interacting with their carrier. So they don't want to be brought to a differently branded portal. They want one integrated experience where they know they're interacting and communicating with their carrier. And then from a carrier perspective, they want that integration. So whatever their adjuster flow is, the adjuster is not going to a separate system. Their choices of payments and being able to monitor those payments and get updates on that payments is all happening from the same system. And then even to take the next step is the back end systems, whether it's billing or policy. You want, whenever that payment is getting made, when that payment is redeemed, all of the steps along that process need to be able to update the back office systems real time and provide as much information as possible. So integrations are key. And I think that we're seeing that across the carrier ecosystem.
And that actually matches up with an interview that I just recently posted with Lisa Wardlaw too, where we were talking about this need for, she was talking about pointillism and connecting all of the points of these different systems. But that idea of integration, I think, is going to be a central theme that we see for the next coming years as we mature through digital transformation a little bit more.
100%. I think best case scenario is the carrier is either working with their integrator themselves, technology providers, but building out that full journey map that then shows who are the providers that they're going to use to create that overall journey. And the more integrated, the better.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining me, Sahra. And for anybody that's not, make sure you make your way over to her LinkedIn profile and give her a follow. But thank you so much for joining us. And as always, reach out if you've got any questions, but have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Leading Change. If you liked what you saw, be sure to subscribe and come back weekly for more expert interviews on digital transformation, change management, and emerging technologies.